Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Givardhari. Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Givardhari. Yashodanandana Bhadrana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Bhadrana Ranjana. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Givardhari. Yashodanandana Bhadrana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Bhadrana Ranjana. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Thank you, Sankarsana Das, Brahmacharya. Jayam Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Pravikacharya Ashur Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON founder Charya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Pravikacharya Ashur Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Ko Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Gaura Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devam Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Nasta Praisu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavat Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this morning we'll be reading a few verses, starting with text 39, 8.10.39. Okay. So we'll do the word for word and the for the last verse. Translation. In the course of the battle, the warfield became strewn with the severed heads of heroes, their eyes still staring and their teeth still pressed against their lips in anger. Helmets and earrings were scattered from these severed heads. Similarly, many arms decorated with ornaments and clutching various weapons were strewn here and there, as were many legs and thighs, which resembled the trunks of elephants. Text 40. Many headless trunks were generated on that battlefield. With weapons in their arms, those ghostly trunks, which could see with the eyes in the fallen heads, attacked the enemy soldiers. Purport. It appears that the heroes who died on the battlefield immediately became ghosts, and although their heads had been severed from their bodies, new trunks were generated. And these new trunks, seen with the eyes in the severed heads, began to attack the enemy. In other words, many ghosts were generated to join the fight, and thus new trunks appeared on the battlefield. Maharaj Bali then attacked Indra with 10 arrows and attacked Airavata, Indra's carrier elephant, with 3 arrows. With 4 arrows, he attacked the 4 horsemen guarding Airavata's legs, and with 1 arrow, he attacked the driver of the elephant. Purport. The word Vahan refers to the soldiers on horseback who protected the legs of the carrier elephants. According to the system of military arrangement, the legs of the elephant bearing the commander were also protected. Text 42. Before Bali Maharaj's arrows could reach him, Indra, king of heaven, who is expert in dealing with arrows, smiled and counteracted the arrows with arrows of another type, known as Bala, which were extremely sharp. When Bali Maharaj saw the expert military activities of Indra, he could not restrain his anger. Thus he took up another weapon, known as Shakti, which blazed like a great fireband. But Indra cut that weapon to pieces while it was still in Bali's hand. 44. Thereafter, one by one, Bali Maharaj used a lance, prasa, tomara, rishtis, and other weapons. But whatever weapons he took up, Indra immediately cut them to pieces. My dear king, Bali Maharaj then disappeared and resorted to demoniac illusions. A great mountain generated from illusion then appeared above the heads of the demigod soldiers. From that mountain fell trees blazing in a forest fire, chips of stone with sharp edges like picks also fell and smashed the heads of the demigod soldiers. Scorpions, large snakes, and many other poisonous animals, as well as lions, tigers, boars, and great elephants, all began falling upon the demigod soldiers, crushing everything. O my king, many hundreds of male and female carnivorous demons, completely naked and carrying tridents in their hands, then appeared, crying the slogans, "Cut them to pieces, pierce them." Fierce clouds, harassed by strong winds, then appeared in the sky. Rumbling very gravely with the sound of thunder, they began to shower live coals. Text 50. A great devastating fire created by Bali Maharaj began burning all the soldiers of the demigods. This fire, accompanied by blasting winds, seemed as terrible as the Samvartaka fire, which appears at the time of dissolution. Thereafter, whirlpools and sea waves agitated by fierce blasts of wind appeared everywhere, before everyone's vision in a furious flood. While this magical atmosphere in the fight was being created by the invisible demons, who were expert in such illusions, the soldiers of the demigods became morose. 53. O king, when the demigods could find no way to counteract the activities of the demons, they wholeheartedly meditated upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the creator of the universe, who then immediately appeared. 54. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose eyes resemble the petals of a newly blossomed lotus, sat on the back of Garuda, spreading his lotus feet over Garuda's shoulders. Dressed in yellow, decorated by the Kaustubha gem and the goddess of fortune, and wearing an invaluable helmet and earrings, the Supreme Lord, holding various weapons in his 8 hands, became visible to the demigods. As the dangers of a dream cease when the dreamer awakens, the illusions created by the jugglery of the demons were vanquished by the transcendental prowess of the Supreme Personality of Godhead as soon as he entered the battlefield. Indeed, simply by remembrance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one becomes free from all dangers. Text 56. Drishva Mride Garuda Vaham Ibari Vaha Avidya Shulam Ahinod Ata Kalanemihi Talilaya Garuda Murdni Patat Gridva Te Nahanam Nirpa Savaham Arim Triyadishaha. What's the meter, Dravidical? Window. Trishva Mridi. Is that one? Okay. Trishva Mridi Garuda Vaham Iba Rivaha. Avidya Shulamani Ahinod Atakalinemi Talilaya Garuda Murdini Patat Grihitva Te Nahanan Nirpa Savaham Arim Triyadisha Trishva Mridi Garuda Vahami Rivaha Avidya Shulam Ahinod Atakalanemi Talilaya Garuda Murdini Patat Grihitva Te Nahanan Nirpa Savaham Arim Triyadishiha. Triyadisha. Tridisha. Okay. Trishva Mridi Garuda Vahami Barivaha. Is this the 4th time? Okay. Avidya Shulam Ahinod Atakalanemi Talilaya Garuda Murdini Patat Grihitva Te Nahanan Nirpa Savaham Arim Tridashia. Please chant. Anyone else?
Drishtva mride garudavaham ivari paha avidya shula mahinot data kalanemihi talilaya garudamurni patad grihitva Tenahananripa Savaham Marim Triadishaham.
Anyone else? Okay.
Drishtva mridhe garura vahan ivari vaha.
Drishva mridi garuda vaham ibarivaha.
Avidya shulam ahinad atha kalanemi. Tallilaya garura murdhini patad grihitva. Tena hanan nipa sabaham arim trayodisha.
Thank you. Synonyms. Drishva, seen. Mride, on the battlefield. Garuda Vaham, the Supreme Personality of Godhead carried by Garuda. Ibarivaha, the demon who is carried by a big lion. Avidya, whirling around. Shulam, trident. Ahinot, discharged at him. Kata, thus. Kalanemihi, the demon Kalanemi. Tat, such an attack by the demon against the Supreme Lord. Lilaya, very easily. Garuda Murdni, on the head of his carrier Garuda. Patat, while falling down. Grihitva, after taking it immediately, without difficulty. Teina, and by the same weapon. Ahanat, killed. Nripa, O king. Savaham, with his carrier. Arim, the enemy. Triadishaha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the proprietor of the three worlds. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace. HG Bhakti Swami Srila Prabhupada. O king, when the demon Kalanemi who was carried by a lion, saw that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, carried by Garuda, was on the battlefield, the demon immediately took his trident, whirled it, and discharged it at Garuda's head. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, the master of the three worlds, immediately caught the trident, and with the very same weapon, he killed the enemy, Kala Nemi, along with his carrier, the lion. Purport. In this regard, Srila Madhvacharya says, Kalinim yadya sarve karina hi hatapi shukrino jivita santa punaste naiva patitaha. Kalanemi and all the other demons were killed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari. And when Shukracharya, their spiritual master, brought them back to life, they were again killed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurn Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Sha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitam Sha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpati Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanistita Devi Pranamami Hare Pre Vancha Kalpatribhyascha Kripasunibhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Good morning, everyone. Hare Krishna. In the Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, there's a section where Srila Prabhupada describes this incident. We have seen in 1947 Hindu-Muslim fighting. One party was Hindu and the other party was Muslim. They fought and so many died. And after death, there was no distinction who was Hindu or who was Muslim. The municipal men gathered them together in piles to throw them somewhere. They fought, and in Bug Bazaar, there were heaps of dead bodies. And when it is a dead body, nobody could understand who was Hindu and who was Muslim. Simply, it was to be cleared from the road. So here, we see the cruel nature of war. It causes suffering, destruction, and violence. And the first lesson in war is that everyone loses. War is a never-ending game where everyone loses. And in war, whichever side may call itself the victor, there are no winners, but all are losers. Srila Prabhupada, in the Bhagavad Gita, he says that 640 million soldiers died in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, except the 5 Pandavas and a few other personalities. So in war, in the beginning, it may seem like it's a good solution. And many people would criticize Krishna for instigating Arjuna to fight the battle. But it's stated that not only Krishna sued for peace, but many other personalities like Vyasadev and Dronacharya and Bhishmadev, they all wanted Duryodhana to stop the war, to prevent the war, and to give half of the kingdom to the Pandavas. And everyone knows that reply that Duryodhana said, right? He said, because Krishna, he was asking Duryodhana for 5 small villages. And as Kshatriyas, their dharma is to rule or govern the people. So Duryodhana, when he heard this, he said, I will not give them land enough to put a pin in. So Duryodhana, he was very envious of the Pandavas. And so, and ultimately Krishna's desire was to enthrone Yudhishthira Maharaj to rule over the people of Hastinapur. And Srila Prabhupada, he said 640 million soldiers died, but Yudhishthira Maharaj, in the Mahabharata, he claimed that 1,660,000,000 and 20,000 men were killed in the war. 1,660,000,000 and 20,000 men were killed. At the end of the Kurukshetra war, even after winning, Yudhishthira Maharaj was unhappy. When they were gathering all of the dead bodies and preparing the pyre, he heard the Kuru ladies crying, and it broke his heart. Not only that, but he was thinking that so many of these ladies were going to be widows. And he heard the children also. So he was thinking there's also going to be children that are orphans. So after this great endeavor of fighting the Kurus, Yudhishthira Maharaj, he wanted to detach himself from the kingly or royal class, and he wanted to go in the forest and just meditate, practice on spirituality. But all of his brothers, they were actually very frustrated with Yudhishthira Maharaj. He said, how can you run away from your duty, you know? After being exiled in the forest for 13 years, and we won, and all of our friends and loved ones have been killed, now you want to renounce the kingdom, you know? And Yudhishthira Maharaj, being a great soul, he wasn't moved by any of these arguments. And it's described in the Mahabharata that Krishna, he simply smiled and didn't say anything. And ultimately, Vyasadeva appeared and said, you should go speak to your grandfather, Bhishma Dev. Because he knew everything about politics, anything that was involved in governing a kingdom. He knew the Shastra, and he was very knowledgeable about that. And when they approached Bhishma Dev, he was lying on this bed of arrows. Maybe you've seen this famous illustration. And Bhishma Dev, he was suffering from thirst. He was suffering from, memory loss. So he told Yudhishthira Maharaj, my body is failing me and I'm going to soon leave this body. But Krishna raised his hand in blessing and he touched the forehead of Bhishma Dev and he said, I bless you that you won't feel pain, your memory will be clear, and you won't be thirsty while instructing Yudhishthira Maharaj. And then this actually happened. And it says that the Pandavas, especially Yudhishthira Maharaj, he was instructed, how to rule they were listening for more than 50 days. And Bhishma Dev, the whole time he was just looking at Krishna. His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, he gave a wonderful lecture, and he says the perfection of human life is dying a glorious death, and then he compared it to Bhishma Dev. So Yudhishthira Maharaj, even after the battle, he was unsatisfied. So in war, nobody wins, everyone actually loses. Srila Prabhupada, he says that violence is required in order to give protection. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna directly gave his order to Arjuna to commit violence on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, just to give protection to the people in general. So yeah, many people, they would argue that Krishna was the cause of this war. But Srila Prabhupada says that violence is required when good arguments fail. And so many personalities, they tried to convince the blind king Dhritarashtra, as well as Duryodhana, to stop the war. They warned him that you will not win this war. The 5 Pandavas, they're divine personalities, and your sons are destined to die. But Duryodhana didn't believe this, and Dhritarashtra, he was actually blaming his disqualification, of his blindness, that he can't say no to his son. And so out of a blind affection for his son, he just simply followed his foolish son's decisions. So here we hear the pastime of Bali Maharaj when he appeared and he had a fight with Indra. And I like how the verse is said, as the dangers of a dream cease when the dreamer awakens, the illusions created by the jugglery of the demons were vanquished by the transcendental prowess of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As soon as he entered the battlefield. Indeed, simply by remembrance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one becomes free from all dangers. I'm not sure if recently any of you have been put in great difficulty or almost the verge of death, but if one can remember Krishna, it says here that they become free from all dangers. I remember when I first moved into the temple, maybe the first month or so, the brahmacharis, we went to Sunset Cliffs, and we decided to jump off this cliff, And I remember Balaram Prabhu, he was ahead of me, and he just went, and something motivated me or inspired me to just jump as well. And mid-flight, I just remember, I don't know how to swim. Oh, man. So as soon as I hit the water, I was thinking, okay, here it is, the devotees are watching me, and I'm going to leave my body. And I remember I was trying to remember Krishna at that time, but at the same time I was trying to survive, So it was very difficult to remember Krishna. And when I got my head above waters, other devotees were just watching. I was thinking, who's going to come and save me, But eventually I started, what do they call it? Dog paddling, yeah. And I reached the rocks, and I got up, and I was thinking, what was I doing? So sometimes in great danger, it's very difficult to remember Krishna. But Srila Prabhupada, he created this institution for us to always to try to remember Krishna at all times. The morning programs, the services that we do, they're all geared towards remembering Krishna, offering nice food stuff to Krishna, singing about Krishna, remembering Krishna and his devotees. So eventually and gradually, remembering Krishna becomes very easy. Narada Muni, he disclosed Kamsa's past life. In his previous birth, Kamsa had been a great demon named Kala Nemi. This is the demon that was killed by Vishnu. And consequently, Kamsa became a great enemy to all the descendants of the Yadu dynasty. He even arrested and imprisoned his own father, Ugrasena, for Kamsa wanted to enjoy the kingdom alone. So this is very similar to the enmity between Hiranyakashipu and Lord Nrsimhadev. Just by his brother being killed by Varahadev, he took this enmity personally, and he was against Lord Vishnu, even up to the point where killing his own son, who is a devotee of the Lord. So demons, they don't know what is to be done and what is not to be done. And in the Bhagavad Gita, it says that cleanliness nor truthfulness are found in these people. So Mukunda Charna Prabhu, he read a verse that demonic people that have a very crooked nature, it's very difficult to trust them. Okay, so share a few Sankirtan stories. At Balboa Park, you'll see parades, you'll see marches, you'll see protests, so many things, especially on the weekends. So there was this pro-Palestinian demonstration through Balboa Park one day. And the person that had the microphone, she was yelling, we want freedom, this and that. So, they created a large following. And during this time, I was speaking to a husband and wife. And at the end of my conversation with them, the man said, is it okay if I take that lady's microphone? And then he said, I want to give it to you, and you should speak to these people. Like that. He said, how to prevent and stop the different wars. Because I had told him that material problems cannot be solved through material means, but only through spiritual solutions. And I told him that first we need to elevate the consciousness of the people on a spiritual platform. And I told him how the soul is neither, from this country or that country. We're all spirit souls. And when he understood this statement, he said, wow, that's very profound. So I told him, this is just one teachings from these books. Please take some of the books that catches your attention, and you'll learn also to make a difference in the world. So he took a set which consists of Science of Self-Realization, Coming Back, Higher Taste, and Chant and Be Happy. What I love about these sets made by Asha Mataji and Shri Radha Mataji is that first we help them to understand who they are, and that's the Science of Self-Realization. And then Balaram Prabhu yesterday, he said that diet is also required for spiritual advancement. So then they get higher taste. They learn that not vegetarianism, but offering the prepared food for Krishna first, for his enjoyment, becomes spiritual food. And then they learn the science of reincarnation, which is really important. And then they learn the importance of chanting the Maha Mantra. Because, sometimes some devotees would argue that, chanting or Harinam is more important. But it's both equally important. But whereas the books explain why chanting should be done, they may hear the holy name and they may benefit. But if they can understand the urgency of chanting, and then they have a higher chance of becoming devotees. So at the end he said, you should really go and get that mic from that lady. Because the lady was causing a disturbance, actually. And then I said, no, maybe another time, And then he shook my hand. He said, I've never met a person like you before that gave me this information about the soul, how it reincarnates to a person's karma or desire, and so many things. After shaking my hand, he said, there's a reason why we came to the park today. And it may seem like, as book distributors, you hear this, but it's the fact that many people don't hear this, There was some person, his name is Clayton, and he is going through different jobs right now. He wasn't satisfied with his other job, so he's working as an accountant right now. And then at the end of the conversation, he said, thank you, I really needed to hear this. He said, most of my friends, all they talk about is sports and this and this. But he said, you gave me something to think about, what is the goal of life? And how should I achieve this means? And so Clayton, he also shook my hand, and he said, I want to get another set for a friend, like that. So he gave a donation. He took 2 sets, and one of the reasons why I don't really distribute Bhagavad Gita is that it's too dense and it's too philosophical for some people. Whereas I give the science of self-realization, and then that's a really nice introduction to the philosophy. So he said, maybe I can get the Bhagavad Gita as well. He said, I always hear about it, but I never get a chance to have it in possession. So I gave him the Bhagavad Gita, and I told him, just read the Bhagavad Gita. When you have time, don't read the Bhagavad Gita first. So he said, thank you for the wonderful explanation. And so, war is not a good thing, but sometimes it's needed to give protection or to reinstall someone who is qualified to rule the people. Right now I'm rereading the Ramayana, and Lord Ramchandra was just banished or exiled to the forest by his own father, Dasharat Maharaj. And Lord Ramchandra, he was very qualified to lead the people, But according to the wicked deception of Manthara to Kaikeyi, she asked for the boons, and she asked Dasharat to banish Lord Ram to the forest and install her own son Bharat as king. So stay tuned. I'll talk more about that. Okay, thank you for your attention. It's 8:30. Are there any questions or comments regarding what I've said or in the verses of the Bhagavatam?
One comment about Manthara.
Yes, true.
The names are often so important, I mean, I don't know if she was given that name at birth, but what mantra means is she who stirs things up. Mm-hmm. He stirred up the trouble by advising Kayadu, was it? The wife?
It's described that in the beginning, Kaikeyi, she loved Lord Ram as if he was her own child. And Manthara, she poisoned her mind, and then she began actually hating toward Lord Ramchandra, And it didn't work out, because when Bharat comes back, he's very furious, and he actually curses his own mother, So yeah. But Srila Prabhupada, I remember he was explaining that association is very important, and the people we associate with, some of their ideas rub off on us, And although Kaikeyi, she was very devoted to virtue and she followed her husband very nicely, her mind was turned by this maidservant. And Manthara, she was actually very fearful of her own position. Since Kaikeyi was the favorite wife of the king, she was also given special privileges and special treatment. And when she found out that Lord Ram was going to be king, she was worried that Kaikeyi was no longer going to be the favorite, so her position was going to be diminished. So she started telling the queen all these crazy things, Okay. Anything else? Mm-hmm.
Concept, he's important in different. Here it is. 6 children killed by Kamsa.
Can you get the microphone, please?
Remember, Kamsa killed 6 of Devaki's children. The 6 children killed by Kamsa had formerly been sons of Marichi, but because of having been cursed by a Brahmin, they were obliged to take birth as grandsons of Hiranyakashipu. Kamsa had taken birth as Kalanemi, and now he was obliged to kill his own sons. So Kalanemi, was this, we just read about it, he was killed on the battlefield. Mm-hmm. So the big entanglement.
Yeah, the Bhagavatam, or the Vedic literature, there's like pastimes after pastimes, previous lives after, So it's really nice. Okay. Thank you for your time and attention. Granth Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.